So hello and welcome to the first episode of the LOUNGECAST podcast with me,
Lounge Boys,
with me, Rico, and
me. It's Leon.
It's Leon.
Unfortunately,
so there's meant to be a third member joining us, but he
I don't think so. I don't think there's meant to be a third member. I think it's supposed to be just us two.
but he parred us off to go to the zoo. Basically, is what's happened. So we're actually
Now, the thing is, I tend to say that if you haven't experienced something, don't slag it off. You cannot like the idea of something. That's completely fine. But until you've actually experienced it, you can't dismiss it as being terrible. But zoos, for me, are up there being one of the worst things, one of the worst day trips you could go on. It's only beaten by pantomime, in my opinion, because pantomimes are terrible.
See,
Absolutely
I
terrible.
don't actually mind zoos that much, but like it's not going to be a priority, especially when we've had something planned for a while.
Oh no, I think zoos
and then it's just
zoos
like,
are terrible.
yeah, I'm just going to go to the zoo actually and just hold everybody's day up. It's not how it works around here, Adam. All right, I know you're listening, and then we're going to have you on next week, and you can defend your case. But right
No,
now,
there is no case. There is no case. We had agreed a time, and he could have said, "I'm not going to be available." He might have mentioned it to you, but he never mentioned anything to me because he doesn't know if I've got stuff planned. I've been filming stuff like pretty much every other week since we broke up from university, so I was planning to do something, and he just basically fucked it today.
and he knew
So-
I had to go back down to uni today, and
'Cause you're graduating soon, aren't you?
I'm graduating
What day
this
exactly are you
Wednesday,
graduating?
so I'm going back today. I've got this whole week planned. I've got my graduation on Wednesday. I've got grad ball on Saturday, and then just bits and bobs. We've got to try and figure out the house.
Do you do your graduation ceremony at the actual university, or do you have somewhere
No,
else?
there's a thing called Guildhall, and it's this big.
Yeah, I
holding,
think ours is
yeah.
at the Guildhall in Southampton as well.
Yeah, so
I don't know whether
it'll be
uni or
good.
students do it though.
So
But
what
yeah,
is
some
on
students do it.
today's agenda for the first podcast, Leon? Something exciting?
Well, I do have something else I want to talk about, but I think the main thing is going to be Game of Thrones.
It is indeed.
'Cause I only watched it about 2 hours ago.
So it's fresh in your mind. I watched it when it came out, so it's a bit blurry, but I've got some stuff I want to talk about.
You don't have to wait for it on Now TV anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because obviously in the UK you don't have access to HBO
Mm.
as a network or HBO Now, so you can't watch it when it comes out in America. But it seems that they've actually updated it, so Now TV, which is the digital provider for Sky Atlantic, they seem to get it at the same time now, so I no longer have to try and wait until, I think it was at 9 o'clock it used to come on Sky Atlantic.
Yeah, I think.
I don't have to wait
it
till
was,
then. I watched it earlier today at like 2. So
That's good.
that's really good. I was about to cancel my subscription as well because I wasn't actually watching anything on Now TV, but I'm going to keep it now because Game of Thrones.
And we are sponsored by Now TV for this episode, by the way.
One thing I will say about Now TV though, I'm not sure if it's because it was on Wi-Fi, but I've never watched anything on there before that the quality dropped so much during an episode of. I watched Twin Peaks the second season on there, and every now and then, once per episode, it would drop. But Game of Thrones dropped down to stream quality of 90, which is the lowest value I've seen. And I only wish that it did that during the Sam and Gilly scenes, because holy shit, I do not care about their storyline.
No,
But unfortunately, their entire sequence in the first episode
well,
was in perfect 4K quality.
do you know what? That scene that with Sam, when he's repeating his chores, and it's like doing jump cuts between him, washing out hands.
Like,
That was
was
so
that supposed to be funny?
bizarre. That was so bizarre. It was like Guy Ritchie-esque. I was watching this and I was like, this is so. I can't think back to a previous episode of Game of Thrones where they were doing such quick jump cuts of like repetition to make you, I don't know, try and feel something. I was like, I mean, by all means, it was a very good first episode, because normally, as first episodes go, they're a bit slower. With Game of Thrones, obviously, stuff still happens, but it's recapping a lot of storylines, where people are, where they're heading to, and I thought it was a very good first episode. But I did pick up on that bit with Sam, with the quick cuts. I didn't really understand what was going on there, and I thought it was very weird for Game of Thrones to do that. I'm not sure whether they've got like a new production team, or just like the way they wanted it to be edited, but it was just, did you not find that a bit bizarre? Like,
Yeah,
that whole sequence.
it's that sort of editing, like, for most films that I've seen it in fairly recently, it tends to be done for a comedy, because you're seeing the same thing repeated over and over again, and it gets faster and faster each time. It's obviously supposed to present how monotonous the task is, but you can clearly see his reaction is the same as it should be, because you shouldn't really get used to latrine pots. And I liked how they tried to make it look it was like the food they were serving.
Was
when they pour out the poo, and then they poured out like the soup, how they were similar colour and whatnot. But I don't know if it was intended for comedic relief, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a weird scene.
It definitely is a different style of editing. I definitely think that, especially with this season being shorter, it's going to be like more faster than people are used to.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. That's a good point.
I think it's. I never really would describe it as languid before, but in comparison to this episode, previous seasons, the episodes are definitely slower.
Well,
it feels like we jumped.
Yeah, this episode had a lot in it, didn't it?
Yeah.
For a first episode, I mean,
I feel like
the beginning,
these next 2 seasons are going to be really, really long films in how they're shot. I think before previous seasons were actually filmed and edited in terms of TV, whereas with this, especially considering how it jumped all over the place. And everything was done to push the story forwards in some way. Not necessarily individual stories, but
just progressing the whole story.
Pushing everything to a nexus.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think before, in the long run, they were thinking, we are in this for the long run, so let's just drag everything out, and we've got 10 episodes, we've got lots more seasons to come. But now they're like, we've got shorter episodes. We've only got, was it 2 more seasons? This one and the next one?
Yeah, this one and the next season's supposed to be shorter. I believe it's only, is it 7 episodes this season and 5 the next one?
I'm not sure.
It's something like
5
that.
episodes.
So, yeah, I think the episodes might be getting longer in length. I'm not 100% sure. This episode, I think, was like 55, 56 minutes. Which doesn't sound horrendously longer than they used to, because HBO tend to do longer episodes than most. But it was a very solid first episode.
Yeah, it was very good. Very happy with it.
Did you like the little cameo?
I was gonna say that. So from the beginning, obviously that whole scene with Arya is obviously an amazing scene when she's pretending to be Walder Frey and she poisons everybody. Yes. Just to let the 2 listeners that we have know, if you haven't watched it yet, we will be saying spoilers, so pause it and come back. But yeah, so that bit I thought that was a really good scene. And then obviously when I first saw Ed Sheeran and heard the singing and everything, I was a bit like, come on.
I heard the voice and I was like, okay, that's Ed Sheeran. And I remembered that they announced that. Well, I don't know if they themselves announced it, but news publications announced that he would have a cameo in the season, and so's Conor McGregor.
Oh, do you know what? I thought it was absolutely fine. That
he
said one word.
I did have some complaints from some people from uni that they didn't like it, but people haven't. I don't know if they didn't know, but there's been quite a few cameos from other artists in Game of Thrones before. Not necessarily in singing roles. At Hardhome, Mastodon. I doubt you've ever listened to them, but I know Rowan and Joel have. But
Joel
they were at Hardhome. Sigur Rós were at Joffrey's Reading. The singer from what's the band's name? Snow Patrol was in an episode. He was singing Bear and the Maiden Fair.
Oh really? I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, and the drummer from Coldplay is at the Red Wedding. And of Monsters and Men are at the play, I believe. In is it Bravos where Arya was?
Yeah.
They're the musicians playing above the play. There's like a shot which shows them. So there's been a few artists in the show before, but I can understand why, because I think out of all of them, Ed Sheeran's the one you're going to notice.
Yeah, the most sort of gimmicky if you're doing it. But to be honest, it was absolutely fine, because I just thought I watched that King Arthur, and they have the David Beckham bit, and I was just like,
was that bad?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Okay.
But
I've not heard anything good about that.
Yeah,
film, but I need to watch it myself.
It was weird. It was a weird film, because I think Charlie Hunnam was a great actor. It was a weird film, but with Game of Thrones, when I saw him in it, I was thinking this is going to be quite cringy, but it was absolutely fine. He said one word, but that whole scene sat around there I found really bizarre, because they were an army sent up to deal with what happened, what Arya did. So who were they sent by? Are they good or bad? Whose army are they?
Well, they're part of the Lannister army.
So they're Lannisters.
Yeah, I think they sent to investigate what was going on at the Twins.
Because they said they got sent to keep the peace, I think, is what they said.
Yeah, because I imagine if you're in an area and the people who govern that area are all dead, I imagine some people would try and take advantage of the situation. So they probably went there to make sure that, Lannisters still in charge of this area. Don't think you can just get away with whatever you want.
And at the end when they go to Arya, so what's a girl doing? She goes, going to kill the queen, and then they pause and all laugh. That for me, that whole bit was just come on. That was the...
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
There was the... even when I was watching, as I watched it with my flatmate, he even said, as soon as she said that, they were going to laugh. Like in that brief gap, like I thought this is silly. Like they're going to laugh. Nothing's going to happen here. You know, I don't know. It did seem a little off, that scene.
It was a very weird scene. It was like they just wanted Ed Sheeran in there, so they're like, we'll have him singing in the woods. Arya just bumps into them. I mean, for all we know, he might play a bigger role, or they might do something later on because that's where her bit ends. But it seemed really weird.
Maybe next episode she kills them. Maybe they end up going off, and at the time she's probably like, okay, I'm not going to kill these people because they seem fairly innocent, even though they're part of the Lannister army. They probably do something, and she ends up killing them anyway.
Yeah, possibly.
That may be the case. What was really jarring for me in that scene was I can't remember the actor's name, but he's in This Is England, and he's in Eden Lake. He's the guy that offered her the rabbit. Do you know who I'm talking about?
The guy who was like, my mum said always be nice to strangers. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
That kid, right? The last thing I saw him in, because I haven't watched the newer seasons of This Is England, was Eden Lake. So I watched that film last year for uni, and in that film it's about a group of essentially chavs, like these young kids, who kill this middle class couple when they come to
Why are you laughing?
Their little town of Eden Lake, because it's a silly film. It's very, very silly. It's part of that weird period of the late 2000s where everyone was scared of hoodies. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
like you had things like even in like the beginning of Attack the Block.
When I was working in North Face,
you got kidulthood and adulthood. You got that, and people were generally scared of people wearing hoods. It's very like middle class horror.
When I was working in North Face, we got told that if people came in with hoods up, we had to tell them to take them down.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Sports Direct even to this day. If you go in there wearing
is that just like a universal?
I don't know if it's a hat, it's a hood.
Yeah,
if
it's
you
not
wear
a hat,
hood, they make you take it down. Hats you're fine, because I was wearing one when I went there today. But if you're wearing a hood, yeah, they ask you to take it down. I think it might be
just for the cameras.
Also in stores where it's one for the cameras and places where there have recently been people stealing stuff. They will tend to be like, okay, because we've had somebody come in there recently and steal stuff, we will make sure that nobody has their face covered so we can identify who's actually been doing this. But yeah, so it was very weird seeing him in that role. But to be honest, he does play a similar role in Eden Lake. He doesn't want to necessarily kill these people. He's sort of like forced into it.
So you think he might do something later because of his previous role?
Maybe he can be. I can see. It's for me. It's plausible to see him later on do something which may lead to him being killed. Like, it's the same thing with Eden Lake. Even though he didn't in that film want to necessarily be involved in the like killings they did, he was punished in the film for it. I won't say how, but in the course of the narrative, he does get punished for it. So I don't know. Perhaps he will end up doing something.
So Sandor Clegane, is he showing his soft side now? Do you know what? I like that callback that they did with the family that he robbed.
What, the guy and the
daughter? Yeah, I think it was good because it shows how harsh the winter is now. It is actually here, because when you think back to when they were there, it was quite like green and lush, and now it's all just snow covered. And obviously they said that he killed himself and his daughter because they had no food, and it just shows that the winter is like so harsh to the point where, you know, people are committing suicides basically.
Yeah, it's so weird to see a place where it seems to go from summer to winter. Even though it seems to be summer for ages and winter for a long period of time, there's never spring.
Well, is it still sunny in King's Landing? I can't think of it. It is, because when they looked out to sea, there were the ships.
Yeah, I think it is. It's far enough south for it to still be, unaffected. But eventually, I think the idea is that if with the Night King coming down, if the north falls, then eventually the whole of Westeros is going to be covered in ice. If you think back to the flashback that Daenerys had in the House of the Undying, where she is in the frozen throne room. Do you remember? There's a sequence where she walks through a frozen throne room, and she walks outside, and there's she's at the wall, and there's like a rose in the wall, and she sees Khal Drogo holding their son.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so I imagine that's like what would happen if they fail.
That's gonna be interesting to see, because I read a fan theory that said, you know, like fire will kill them, whatever, even though, well, we've seen them walk through parts of fire and it gets extinguished, but the dragons will kill them. But like, if they kill a dragon, obviously it's going to resurrect as an ice dragon. So that's going to be interesting to see whether that happens. Yeah,
because they've got giants.
They've got the giants, haven't they? Was that meant to be the giant that died? I couldn't tell whether they were trying to again call back to that or whether it was just a random.
At Winterfell? No, it might have been one of the ones they
died
killed
by the wall.
outside
No, because they're not at the wall, are they? It's not at the wall.
No, they're on the way.
So
they're on the way
yeah,
to the wall.
I guess they've just
so I don't. It was probably giants they killed from years gone by. But the idea of them getting a dragon, that definitely does ramp up the stakes quite a bit. And I think, to be honest, that will probably end up being the case.
Well, it's just like the
They'll
main
probably
guy, the main Walker
the
flying
Night
a
King
dragon
will be like, yes.
against Daenerys.
I mean, to be honest, if you had a guy kill a dragon in your army and you could resurrect it, you're not going to let that guy ride it. You're going to have it. You'll be like,
you're like, give me that.
I'm the boy. I'm the king. I'm going to take this. So I can definitely see that happen, and it definitely would increase the threat that they would have if, like, for argument's sake, there's that map that Sam finds, which shows that Dragonstone conveniently
is where
has a mountain
she is
of
now.
Dragonglass,
that is where she
where
is.
Daenerys
Okay.
is now.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I assumed because obviously it cuts from that straight to her landing there. So I
That's
assumed.
where she's landed. But conveniently, there's loads of Dragonglass.
So, but that
there.
she said so
And
that
exactly what the North needs.
that castle,
and she needs to marry someone. You can sort of put two and two together.
So that castle's at the end of the wall then.
No, it's not the end of the wall. It's right down south.
Well, I swear he reads it and he says, "Oh no, who says that? Like where the wall meets the sea. Oh, it was Sandor Clegane when he's looking in the fire. So he's not talking about that castle where she is then.
No. He's talking about where the Night Watch needs to defend because that's where the Night King and his army will.
Well, they're just going to walk around the thing into the wall.
They're probably just going to walk around and try and, if they overthrow this keeps, be able to like bypass the wall or whatever.
I see.
So essentially, that's what he saw in the flames. But I did think it was rather convenient, and I can understand why people do complain and say it seems so fast now because things are being strung together a lot quicker.
What are people saying that though? People are saying it's too fast.
Well, I say people. I'm not talking about the general consensus. It's just people that I know who watch the show. It seems rather convenient that she arrives at Dragonstone. She needs to marry somebody in Westeros, and the North needs Dragonglass, and Jon is free to be married. But it'd be weird to see Daenerys marry him if that ends up being
What's
the
their
case,
relationship?
because they're aunt and nephew.
Their aunt and nephew.
And the thing is, you end up in a weird situation where people will be wanting this to happen because they'll be like, oh, Jon, Dany, blah blah blah. But
they
that
are
is
related.
Still you wanting an aunt to marry her nephew. Like, it's
Is
a very
that
weird
actually
scenario to
confirmed?
be in.
Like, obviously that they've pretty much showed it, but do we actually know?
I believe so. I think it would be very poor taste for them to have created this sequence throughout season 6 and to have edited the last episode in such a way where
So he pretty much is a Targaryen.
especially because of the music as well. Because the music flows between the two shots of the baby, and then when it goes to the shot of Jon panning out into the hall in Winterfell, I think it would be in very, very poor taste for them to be like, oh no, by the way, he's not actually the child from the tower. It's not Lyanna's child. So
he definitely is a Targaryen.
I think it's all but confirmed, to be honest. I think it pretty much is confirmed.
And then what? Tyrion's the other one.
Tyrion's the other what?
Targaryen. That was something.
I don't know.
See, that was something else I read as well because
that's
been thrown around as well. That he's
that has been thrown around, but I don't know.
That's why he was
think,
ostracized so much, as well as his disability, obviously.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that might be a little bit more wishful thinking because I mean Jon's pretty bad in terms of wishful thinking, but I think that was always going to be the case because I think even in interviews George R. R. Martin has said that some people have guessed things about Game of Thrones that I've been alluding to, but he wouldn't obviously say what it was. I don't know. Maybe the thing with Tyrion is true. Either way, I think I like him as it is now.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't
think
think he needs to be
a Targaryen as well. I think it's very powerful for him to potentially be the last Lannister. If the thing ends up the way that would be and justice for all type ending, him being the last Lannister would be the ultimate insult to Tywin's legacy. The whole thing that he planned was to never let Tyrion be the person who inherited his house because in his eyes, he was never good enough for him. So to have him be the person who rules Castle Rock will be the biggest insult to his legacy that he worked so hard to try and build up. So I don't see them. I mean, the idea of him not being a pure Lannister as well, that also helps that. Him being also half Targaryen. But I hope they don't do that. I hope they just leave him as he is. And that the only conflict he really has is with Cersei and Jaime now. I just want that to be as it is. But we should have to wait and see for that, I think.
I think Jaime's definitely turning on Cersei. Like you can just tell by the way the dialect's
The
going.
way he questions him.
Yeah, it's just he's very
Questions him, questions her.
He's very, you know. He's you can tell.
Yeah, I think it might end up having to be. I think for him, because he's gone through this weird sort of like pseudo redemption.
Well, he's done
as a
everything,
character.
Jamie, hasn't he? He's been everywhere. He's done everything.
He's been all over the joint. This guy.
I mean, has Cersei even left King's Landing for the whole?
Yeah, she was at Winterfell on the beginning.
Oh god, yeah. And then But apart from that, where's she been? Has she actually left all the seasons?
I don't think she's been anywhere else. I don't know if she's ever been back to Castle Rock. We've never seen Castle Rock, have we? No, I don't think we have. So yeah, that's pretty much where she's been the whole time. No.
Where
I don't
was
think we have.
Arya being kept with Gendry at one point and the guy?
Harrenhal.
Harrenhal. Oh, okay.
Yes, we've never seen her outside. Well, since she arrived back with Robert in season 1, we haven't actually seen her.
Actually, do you know what? When when we first see Ed Sheeran and we hear him singing, I for like a good 3-4 seconds, I was like, I reckon it's Gendry. Like she was just gonna come across it.
Will Gendry come back? Probably.
Still rolling.
But part of me doesn't want him to, because it's one of those things where I don't want Bman to get another stupid, unnecessary character to come back, like he did with goddamn
Bman being Adam, the other guy.
No, there's nobody else. Bman is just someone we know.
Well, he's meant to be on this. Bman's the Adam guy we're talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, he basically was like, I'd rather go to the zoo than, you know.
Yeah, you saw some penguins though, so it's alright. Do you know what I mean? It was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, penguins and their unnatural environment for them, you know. It's just, it's wonderful, Adam. I hope you're happy yourself. But, but the only person I've ever known to ever talk about Benjamin Stark after he went missing, I talk about, I wonder if we'll see Benjamin, is him. And I can't believe they made Cold Hands into Benjamin Stark. I can't believe they made that the same person. It is absolutely beyond me that they would think to bring him back.
So is Benjamin not being? He hasn't returned in the books.
I think Cold Hands hasn't actually been identified yet.
So it could be Benjamin.
It could be.
But it is in the show.
In the show, it is. Cold Hands doesn't exist as a character, essentially, because he's never called Cold Hands. He's just called Benjamin. When Bran sees him, he's like, my Uncle Benjamin. He's never known as anything else. But I'm so annoyed that they did that, because he got a payoff for that, and anybody that deserves payoff, it's not him.
Why? Why have you got? Why is that matter?
I don't know, because Benjamin was such a nothing character. Like, think about it. He's like a very, very minor character, and for anybody for you to be rooting for, like, he didn't care about anybody else really. If he did, he never vocalized it. The only character he was like really rooting for to be like, I hope they're okay, is Benjamin. Out of all people, I imagine he's definitely like wondering about Gendry as well.
Going back to Sandor again, I was going to say, what do you reckon his ultimate role is? Like, obviously he's going to have quite a big role because they're really emphasising we're all here for a reason, the whole Lord of the Light kind of thing. What are they called? The group without a banner, was it?
Brotherhood Without Banners.
Yeah. So
I think it's going to be like this whole born to die at the right moment type things. I think
he's going to have a crucial role.
Yeah, I think. Well, a lot of people think Clegane Bowl is going to happen, which is essentially he's going to fight his brother again. So it's going to be like this weird redeemed, I say quote unquote, Sandor Clegane fight against his undead brother, which I don't know. I'd like to see it, but they do tend to be pushing this vibe that people exist in the show to die at the right time, and I think as a theme, it's fairly powerful, especially when you have somebody like Barry Dondarrion, who at the time when you've met a character who can die and keep coming back, you do wonder, well, what's he got to fear? Because there's no risk to him dying. But I imagine what they'll use as a plot device is that he has a specific time where he needs to die, and it'll probably be fighting the White Walkers.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I don't know who he's supposed to die for and save, but I imagine we won't see him surviving to the very end of the show. But with Sandor Clegane, I think there's a lot of redemption that they tried to push in the show. I think Jaime's another character who goes through it. But Clegane, I think it's very ironic to have somebody who's scared of fire be surrounded by people who worship a god who they experience the presence of through fire, and witnesses a vision through the very thing that scarred him. Yeah, I think, to be honest, he's in it to have the final showdown with his brother, because his brother's supposed to be the person that gave him the burns in the first place. So
Yeah, I think you're
think
right,
he,
actually.
he exists to be the antithesis to his brother. Whereas with someone like Jamie, who I was talking about before, I think he's going to be doomed to repeat what he had to do before, where he killed the Mad King. Ultimately, I think he might be the one to kill Cersei. I think he's being set up to question her, and as she becomes more desperate to cling on to what she has, will end up endangering something that's greater than her. Which, to be honest, she already is. The Seven Kingdoms aren't her. They never are one person. Nobody is the embodiment of everything. And I think he's starting down the path where he'll reach a point where he'll be antagonistic towards her ideals and have to remove her because he's the only one that could end it as quickly as it should be. So I think that in itself is fairly powerful. The idea that he's a Kingslayer, and now he potentially could end up being a Queenslayer as well. The perennial backstabber. But yeah, good episode.
Yeah, do you know what? Really solid episode.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very good episode. I think partially because I was excited to just see it again, just to be like, it feels weird not having it already, because it's normally April when it comes out, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it April? Yeah. So it feels weird not having it, and in this period of time where normally it's a drought of content, you're getting it again.
Yeah.
So, did you watch Preacher?
No, I didn't.
So we had season 2 of Preacher that started, and that's still going. And I had the absolute pleasure of watching American Gods.
Still need to watch that.
And if you haven't, it's probably the best looking television show I've ever seen. It is phenomenal. It's available on Amazon Video. They are sponsoring this podcast. But honestly, it is fantastic. I'm going to watch it again. And it's weird to think that the cameras they use to film that is cameras that I have access to at university. It's absolutely phenomenal. Because it's the best thing I've seen on TV.
What season's that on now?
Like, in terms of imagery quality, that's just one season.
Okay.
Only one season. It's already been renewed for season 2, but it's absolutely fantastic. Ian McShane's in it, and he's absolutely fantastic in it. I honestly think, yeah, if you've never heard of the book, you should probably know the premise of the book before you watch it. I think it does help you understand what's going on, because I think, was it Bman that watched it and he was confused? He watched the start of it. He might have watched it with Sam though, and I imagine Sam was probably talking the whole time, so that probably wouldn't have helped. But honestly, absolutely fantastic. I think Joel's seen it. I know he's read the book, but brilliant, absolutely.
So you
brilliant,
highly recommend it?
TV show. Oh yes, most definitely. I definitely recommend American Gods. Really, really good.
Well, I think that sums up
I
our
recommend-
recap of Game of Thrones. Have you got anything to talk about? Anything else?
What, Game of Thrones?
Yeah, before we go off on a tangent.
Not necessarily Game of Thrones, but I do have a film
Okay.
that I want to talk about. I really, really like this film. So this film came out in 2016. It's a French film. It's called Raw. And when it came out, it was submitted to the Cannes Film Festival, Toronto, London. It did win Best First Feature, I think, at London. I'm not sure what the name of the award is. I think it's the Sutherland Award. Might be wrong. But it is a really, really good film. Some people, when they watched it at Toronto, had to be checked out because they fainted from the graphic content.
Oh, really? What? Oh, my God.
Because, to be honest, I can understand why. It didn't faze me too much, but it's got cannibalism in it. And it's not it's not what you think. It's essentially follows the story of this girl. I believe her name's Justine. And this film is French, so it's subtitled, by the way. So I know some people don't like subtitles. But she's a vegetarian who's going to vet school. And do you know what hazing is?
No, I don't.
If you as hazing, I don't think we use that term here. It's more of an American term. We just use like initiation type stuff. But essentially, she goes to uni, the equivalent of uni.
So it's what, like initiation into a group?
The initiation stuff. So part of the initiation that she has to do is they get stuff like blood thrown on them and stuff like that. But she has to eat raw rabbit kidney.
Oh.
But this person's vegetarian, so she's never eaten meat before. And after doing so, she ends up getting like this horrible rash. It is really disgusting to look at. It's caused by the food poisoning she gets from eating the raw rabbit kidney. But because she's never eaten meat before, it's a new sort of weird sensation for her. So now she starts eating meat, but the problem is that she's always eating it raw. She starts liking the taste of raw meat, and eventually that escalates. It goes from animals to
humans,
people, and
quite a big jump.
I didn't tell you exactly how, but it's very, very good commentary. It's very it's got really, really strong symbolism. Like,
so what sort of style is it? What genre is this fitting into? Is it kind of like a horror, or what are they going for, more like a...
I mean, for some people they would definitely say it was a horror. I think I would probably say it is a horror. It's got a very good drama aspect to it. It's got a solid like social drama aspect about it, because it's obviously somebody who is a vegetarian, and their demeanor at the start of the film is fairly milquetoast, and because of this hazing ritual they go through, end up becoming this completely different person than they ever expected themselves to be. So it's a horror in that aspect, and it's also a drama, I'd say. It's fairly gory. If you're like afraid of cannibalism, I'd still say watch it, because some people, they generally don't like the idea of consuming human flesh. Generally think it's a really good film. It's shot very well. It's got a very nice colouring done to the film. I don't even know who did the post-production work on it. I really need to check out, because that's what I'm trying to specialise in, is editing and colouring. Absolutely amazing film. If you've not seen it, I definitely recommend you watch it. At least watch the trailer. Fantastic film. And I think that's it for me. I don't really...
No, I think, yeah, I remember you talking about it a few days ago, actually.
Yeah, there's... Because I'm trying not to spoil the film.
Yeah, we might have to put a little asterisk on this, because you talked about a few little spoilers, not just Game of Thrones, so...
Oh, yeah, no, I've talked about a few things. This was always going to be spoilers if we were talking about...
it basically is like the one that the podcast that we put out for Game of Thrones will probably just be a recap of like stuff we've watched, because we're going to try and put out like multiple different ones of stuff that's happening or events, but with Game of Thrones coming out, it just seems perfect that we should just have one specific just for that. We'll talk like half an hour for that.
Yeah, we'll probably make like the Game of Thrones one, because it's so popular and we all who are participating in this enjoy watching it, will probably be the biggest segment of something like this, but we will follow it up with other TV shows and films that we've watched. You'll probably contain that in one podcast, and then in any other ones that we do, we'll probably keep games separate.
We will try and get a video aspect going as well. I know it's going to be a bit difficult at the moment, because we don't have well, we've got cameras, but we don't have like amazing cameras, and we don't actually have a location which seems fitting to film, because I've just finished university, so I'm back home now. Adam's back home, whereas Leon's away at university. So trying to get us all, in one room is not going to happen. So we're going to have to try and get a video link for Skype, so Leon can be up on the screen whilst we have cameras for Adam and I. We want other people to join in. I was thinking, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, we can get some guests.
I want to get Joel in and Sam and people, because they've all got...
Yeah, we'll get them in on certain stuff. I've got people that I work with at university. They'll probably want to jump in if we're talking about films.
Yeah, exactly.
The only danger with that is that we may end up becoming, in those particular ones, may end up being too film friendly.
Yeah, but that's
because
fine.
I know you studied media. What does Bman study? I can't
filming.
remember what he said. Does he do film as well?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Bman studies film, so then it should be fine. We can have more in-depth discussion about certain films. But we need to try and find a film that we've all watched or plan to watch, so we can talk about it. Because I definitely would like to do like a more in-depth discussion about a film like Raw, because I really, really do like it, but I know you and B-Man haven't seen it. I don't know if B-Man would be able to sit through all of it. I think you'd be fine. You'd definitely be parts where you'd be like, oh, that's disgusting.
Oh yeah. I'm not great with like too much gore, to be honest, but
it's not like the most goriest thing I've ever seen, but it's very strong. It's gory where it needs to be, and that's what I really, really like about the film. It feels fairly embedded in its own cinematic reality, which isn't too far away from the one that we live in, which is very good. It's not exactly social realism. You can feel some of those documentary aspects in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good film. I think it's fairly underappreciated by some people, but when there's a Blu-ray release for it, I'm definitely gonna pick it up.
Well, let us know what you think, because I think we've created a Twitter now for this as well. So tweet us in or write in the comments what you think about any theories.
What is the Twitter?
I think it's just lounge_cast. or underscore loungecast, one or the other. I think it's lounge_cast.
Let me actually
go on it,
because you have to like verify it before
browse
actually shows up. Lounge_cast.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not.
Probably because we haven't verified or something, but we'll sort that out.
Yeah,
anyway,
you have to verify it. Oh wait, no, here it is. I see it. Yeah. Okay. Just dropped a cheeky little follow.
Let us
at lounge_cast.
Oh, I've got a little notification, Nilo Burr. But yeah, so let us know any fan theories, anything you think we should start talking about, or any good topics. Because I know I might end up doing like a sports one, because I'm following a lot of like UFC channels and stuff. So I might do ones of that with like Sam and people. But it's just generally, this is just going to be the main hub where when we want to have a discussion, we'll just come on and we'll just record it and put it out just so we can watch them back and our friends can watch them, and just for your, if you want to get engrossed in something. Because at the moment, I think all I pretty much do on YouTube is just listen to podcasts. I just put them on in the background, the stuff. I
don't listen to as much as I used to, which is a weird shame. I think the only one I actually keep up with anymore. Actually, I don't even really keep up with it anymore. It's the Rooster Teeth one. I don't even keep up with it anymore. I always start them and I never finish them. I tend to watch them before I go to sleep. I tried watching, what's it called? Always Open. I never can finish episodes of that either. It's always like something I'll put on. It sounds really bad, putting something on before to help you go to sleep.
No, I get
that. It tends to. Like the
That's
sound,
what I do. Just because you don't have to watch stuff. I put on Joe Rogan podcasts all the time, just so I've got something in the background that I sort of listen to, but you can have your eyes shut. So it's not, you're not doing it because it makes you go to sleep. You're doing it just so you've got some background noise kind of thing. But the problem is, I find so many of them so interesting. Like I end up staying up and like listening to the whole 2.5 hours of them. But we do definitely need to get a video aspect together once we can sort out a location and cameras and the best sort of place to do it. So that will definitely be coming in the future. But yeah, so you said you had something you wanted to talk about earlier, or was that Raw?
That I think was Raw. I don't have anything else that I've listed down. Raw was what I wanted to really talk about. I'm trying to think, is there any other films that I've seen recently that I really, really want to talk about? I mean, I saw Spider-Man Homecoming, but I'd rather not talk about that, to be honest.
That might be a bit too early.
Not because I think it's shite or anything. Save that for another time.
Yeah, I feel like with movies like that, we probably shouldn't, because people tend to watch them gradually throughout weeks. With Game of Thrones, the people who are going to be wanting to listen to this would have already watched it. Whereas with stuff like Spider-Man, I feel like that's probably we should leave those for a couple of weeks. But that's cool. We can end this one.
Yeah, I don't think anything. I don't want to do any gaming stuff on this one. We'll do that on a separate.
Yeah, we'll do each
one.
individual genre for something different. But we just wanted to break in this channel with this first podcast. We thought, is there a better way to have your first episode than Game of Thrones? So that seemed like the perfect time to start. But yeah, let us know.
And it's always good to start something without Bman.
It's always good because he's going to come on next week and he's just going to be like,
yeah, he's just going to be, all like nasal and all just not really there. Just like, hi, I'm Adam. Just talking absolute nonsense. He would try and defend himself about going to the zoo, but there's no excuse. Absolutely no excuse. Zoos are terrible.
No, they're not too bad. But it just seems like it's very bizarre when we've been planning a podcast for a long time and he's been so at the forefront of trying to create the channel and everything, and then it's just like on the day it's like, I'm just going to go to the zoo.
Yeah, sorry man, go to the zoo.
So that's why we're riffing into him a little bit. We'll let him defend himself next week when we do our next one.
He'll put up a defence. There'll be no point because there's no excuse, but he'll try.
We'll just have to call. The next podcast is gonna be us arguing for hours, probably, isn't it?
And to be honest, it's probably for the best that he wasn't here for the first one, because B-Man's fairly argumentative. He just can't control himself.
You're just painting this picture of like...
He will mention something, and he'll mention something deliberately to antagonise us, and then even when we don't take the bait, he will still try and argue an argument that no one's arguing but him.
Yeah, or he'll pick up on really, really like silly things that just don't mean anything. He'll be like, "Do you see that tree? Oh, I think it means that something's going to happen." Yeah. It's just like, well, Adam, come on, mate. Nothing's happening, really.
Yeah, it's just... I mean, I don't know why we've actually got him here.
Yeah, I reckon we should cut.
To be honest. Yeah, to be honest, like, he's not here when he needs to be, and he wants us to revolve this around him.
It's all around him,
isn't it? That's not necessarily going to be the case. We have to wait and see to what we come up with next time. To be honest, we'll probably end up doing another one before the next entertainment one.
Yes.
Which will probably be the gaming one, and he'll be there, and you'll
Well, I'm
Get to
away
experience
this
in all its
week,
glory.
but you guys go ahead and talk about whatever you want.
I am not doing one, just me and Adam.
Yeah, well, you can
I
involve
don't think
Joel
that
or
would end
people.
well.
You can bring people in.
Joel and Adam don't talk.
Yeah, I know. We need to get
They
them to
literally
talk.
do not speak
We need
to
get
each
them to
other.
talk.
So I don't know. We'll have to see what we come up with. I mean, if I can get Bman to come on with somebody else,
He'll just want to talk about Rocket League, though. And then, I mean,
yeah,
there's only so much you could talk about with driving a car to hit a ball. To be honest.
But yeah, no. I'll have to just we have to wait and see till the next available to do the next one. But
So yeah, make sure you write in the comments "fuck Adam," and
yeah, fuck Bman, and any sort of feedback as well is much appreciated. If anything did go wrong, it's probably Bman's fault.
and they're going to be a lot more professional than this. I'm hoping anyway, because obviously we're just talking about bits and bobs.
We have to improve,
but we have to
start small, and then obviously you get better.
Breaking it in.
Hopefully.
If not, then this will be our last episode.
If not,
So
then
thank
sack
you
it
very
off.
much.
This will be the first and last episode with your favourite lounge boys. Fuck Bman.
Why do you keep saying Lounge Boys? What's that? What's that
Because
about?
lounge boys that's just lounge boys, isn't it?
What's that about?
What do you mean? What's it about?
Lounge Boys. Where are you getting this
It's
from?
called lounge. Wait, hold on. So the thing's called the LOUNGECAST, right? This can't be just the LOUNGECAST, because then what does anything else get called?
Sofa Cast?
No, that's not how it works.
No, all right. We'll have to have
Because we're just
we'll have to
like,
have
you
these
know,
deep
lounge
discussions
boys.
behind the scenes on the Loungecast. These internal discussions where we talk about
Yeah, we need to take it up with our
with the third party member Adam, who's probably going to be getting cut from
Yeah.
his CEO position at the moment.
and whoever's doing the payroll as well. We have to talk to them about it.
I'm not getting paid enough, and our sponsors, Raw and
Raw. No, our sponsors Now TV and Amazon.
Now TV and Amazon. Yeah, our sponsors Now TV and
they're
Amazon.
we need to talk to them about funding because we need better stuff already.
I need a microphone that isn't a headset, really.
Oh yeah, no. You can get snowball mics from CEX, I believe they sell them. So that's the microphone I'm using at the moment, which it's not the best microphone in the world, but it's still better than like Jake's mic that he buys all the time when it breaks.
Right, well, thank you for listening to the first episode, and we'll be back shortly, I guess, whenever somebody fancies recording something. I'm not sure.
Whenever the zoo closes, we'll probably probably have them back.
Right, well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.